When you hear the words gun control or gun reform, what comes to mind? Are you of the belief that we do need more gun control because you think that the more guns we have, the more violence there is going to be? Or every time you hear more gun control, we need more gun control, we need more gun reform, you freak out because you think that's going to mean less gun rights in America? Now, whatever your beliefs or your opinions are about gun control, I believe that we need to evaluate each person's concerns and listen to their arguments. And hopefully as we do that, that we can find common ground as we seek to not only uphold the U.S. Constitution, but to find real solutions that will keep our children and our families safe. Now, according to the Second Amendment, it simply states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and to bear arms shall not be infringed. Let me put it in more simpler terms. I have this book that's called The Constitution Made Easy by Michael Haller. And this is how he words the Second Amendment in more layman terms. The people have the right to own and carry firearms, and this right may not be violated because a well-equipped militia is necessary for a state to remain secure and free. Now, there are three main principles based on the Second Amendment that are important for you and I to understand. The first one is that American citizens have a right to protect their homeland. And second, like unto the first, Americans have a constitutional right of self-defense. And three, this right, the right to bear arms, to own firearms, shall not be taken away by the government. In most recent Supreme Court cases, the Second Amendment right of Americans to keep and to bear arms has been upheld in two significant cases: the District of Columbia versus Haller in 2008 and McDonald versus the City of Chicago in 2010. The Second Amendment, like all other amendments to the Constitution, are fundamental to a free society, and it is the responsibility of both state and federal government officials to protect such fundamental rights, not take them away. All right, so if we know that Americans have the right to own a firearm and the right of self-defense, so then why all of this debate about more gun control? Well, this is where the discussion breaks down both on the left and the right. You see, both sides of the gun debate have different reasons for why there are so many mass shootings. Now, I get that. I try to listen to both sides, and although I may not always agree or do agree with some of the reasoning or don't think that it's right to point the finger at certain entities or people, but in the midst of all these debates, there's one thing that I found to be true, is that we do share some of the same concerns, that we want to find ways to prevent these mass shootings and to keep our children safe, period. Now, I do realize that these conversations about gun control and gun violence are very difficult to have with different folks of different strokes. So we must be sensitive, my friends, when we're having this conversation with others, especially if the two of you don't necessarily see eye to eye politically. But I do want to say this, and this is very important. Gun violence isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. It's a human one. This is something Jake Paul, the YouTube star, agrees with.
I do think both parties need to come to the middle, though, and figure out what is fair for both sides.
Dana Lush, an NRA spokesperson.
Making sure that students and teachers are protected is something that everyone can agree on. That shouldn't be a political issue.
Now, one of the most common arguments that is made for mass shootings is the number of gun violence in America. According to a New York Times article, it states that the only variable that could explain the high rate of mass shootings in America is its astronomical number of guns. Now, yes, I do agree that we have a lot of guns. It's estimated that there are approximately 325 million guns in America. That's a lot of guns. But to say that the number of guns is the only variable to explain mass shootings, I don't believe is a fair-minded statement. Now, this may come as a shock to some of you, but the main reason for mass shootings isn't the guns. Now, hold on, wait till I finish the statement. The main reason for mass shootings isn't the guns, but the evil intentions behind those people operating the guns. You and I both know that violence exists in the world. But you know why? Because of the sinfulness of mankind. There are evil and deranged people who love violence and will do whatever necessary to commit such evil acts. That is the real problem. And it is these kinds of people that we must do a better job identifying before they do access a firearm. We can look back at the shootings from Columbine in 1999 to Sandy Hook in 2012 to the Florida shootings that took place in Douglas High School. We all know that these were evil and horrific acts that were perpetrated by evil people. Now, every one of these mass shooters suffer from major problems: depression, suicidal thoughts, and as a result, they sought to harm and murder others. So before we look to punish and regulate, we as a society need to recognize the sinfulness of these shooters and realize that every single mass shooter had some form of mental illness or disorder. We have heard far too many times. Think about how many times we've heard of a mass shooter passing a background check because of the inefficiency of detecting mental issues. According to the ATF, Nicholas Cruz passed a federally mandated background check. He procured his weapons without breaking any laws. If there's at least one thing, my friend, that you and I can agree on, is that individual states, including our federal government, must improve background checks to be more thorough in efforts to prevent crazy people from purchasing firearms. Now, before I do wrap up this video, allow me, without getting all stereotypical and political, to lay out what we can start doing to improve not just our gun laws, but safety laws that will keep our kids safe. The first thing we must do is get our legislators on both a state and federal level to do, as I mentioned before, to do a better job passing laws that restrict insane people from passing a background check. A second thing is to design and install schools to be more impenetrable. We need to have restricted access to and from schools. There needs to be checkpoints on campuses to keep our kids safe. A third thing is fund more trained and armed officers patrolling the school grounds. Another thing is give the NRA and other organizations the opportunity to work with local law enforcement to ensure gun owners are trained in gun safety and trained to spot danger. I believe this will not only increase more public safety in and around our schools, but our communities as well. The fifth thing is we also have to confront the kids that are bullying many of these students that eventually and unfortunately snapped and retaliated for being bullied. And finally, another thing we could do is get our local governments, get our churches, get our schools to all work together to teach our children how to not only report threats, but also teach them how to speak up when they see any type of bullying take place, whether it be on social media or even in the classroom. Looking at these issues and seeing these mass shootings, I realize I don't have all the answers. But like you, I care. And I want to do whatever I can to keep people safe from harm. And I believe you want that as well. So whether you agree or you disagree with me, I like to know what you think. So please leave me some comments below. And remember, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. Hit that like button. And until I see you on the next video, keep standing strong, my friends.